are going all over India, but something specific to postgraduates, a very detailed and in-depth teaching program has not taken off yet, and which is why ABI Institute decided that we'll take up a PG program in which the postgraduates of our medical colleges will benefit, because the hospitals are out of bounds, the um, bedside teaching is out of bounds. So this is something with which you will be really benefiting over the next 2 months. We will be doing these classes every day from 5 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. To begin with, we are very grateful to Dr. Love Coach Gave, who is from Bihar itself and who did his MBBS from Patna Medical College residency. I'll just read out his introduction and then I'll speak further. He is a consultant at BBI Foundation, Kolkata. He specializes in pediatric ophthalmology, strabismus, cataract, LASIK, ICL, ocular trauma, and hospital management. He is the executive director and consultant at BBI Foundation since 2012. He was a senior consultant and ophthalmologist also at Shankar Netralaya, Kolkata. He was a consultant at Shankar Netralaya, Chennai also, and he has had the honor of doing live surgeries on the Orbis plane, the pediatric cataract live surgery he has done on that. And he did his internship at Bangalore Medical College. He has many awards to his name. One of the most prestigious being the best video at the renowned Challenging Cases Symposium in ESCRS. And he has had the best video award at the annual conference of Ophthalmological Society of West Bengal and also in the Kolkata Academy of Ophthalmology. He has authored some chapters in different books also, and he has many publications to his credit. Now, we will have Dr. Love Coach Gave through this week. He will be talking on different topics, what you have already seen in the banner. And then there are a galaxy of teachers from around the country who will be talking on different topics every day at 5 p.m. And in the following week, we'll have different teachers. So I'd like to request, without any delay, request Dr. Love Coach Gave to please talk on refraction. Refraction is one of the basic things which we need to learn, know, and master. And Dr. Love Coach Gave will make it easy for all the postgraduates today. Dr. Love Coach Gave, please.
Thank you, Dr. Satyajit. And before we start, I'll just request all postgraduates that in chat box you can write your name and college so that we have an idea of who all are attending the session.
Their names are already appearing in the participants list anyway.
Organization. Okay, sir. Is it, can you see the presentation on screen?
We can see your screen. Now it's there.
It's there. Yeah. So I'll start with refraction, and what you can do that as I'm going through my slides, anyone having any question in between, please type it in the chat box, and then Dr. Satyajit can intervene and ask me at that point itself so that we could keep on clearing the doubts.
Correct.
So let's start with pediatric refraction. And why is it challenging? Because when you are seeing, is the video clear?
Yes, video is clear.
So due to the poor cooperation, they don't respond. There is no objective response. and attention span is very limited and it's bit time
सर उसका हाथ
consuming.
थोड़ा छोड़ दीजिए, रिलैक्स रिलैक्स
Just
रहने दीजिए.
in this video you'll get how difficult it is.
देखेगा कुछ नहीं कर रहा है, कुछ नहीं कर रहा.
Now this is another scenario. Just I've taken some videos of my normal OPD. Lights are on just for demonstration. Otherwise, it has to be under in dark room. You cannot get irritated with the child. Keep the child in good humor. Try to engage with him. The optometrist or doctor who is doing the retinoscopy should never apply eye drop in the same child, because then the child will get frightened and will never cooperate with you during retinoscopy.
बस छोड़.
And when in older children it's easier, it's definitely easier, and they cooperate much well, and that is as good as any adult. So this summary, the summary of this presentation would be how to identify the children with refractive error, how do we dilate, then what are the recommendations, how do we prescribe, like once we get the values, how do we prescribe the spectacles, and recognizing special situations. So identification can be in a various way, but it is always advisable that any child every child should have a full eye checkup before 3 years of age if there are no symptoms. Sometimes there would be some symptoms like headache, lid swelling, repeated lid swelling, squint. All those can give an indication for an early checkup. So how do these children present to us? They come with squeezing of the eyes while watching TV, like with a history that they cannot see the blackboard. They will hold things close when seeing near objects. Many times it is during the first routine school screening, and that is why it is advisable that before school, the child starts going to school at 3 years of age, the eye checkup should be done. Many times in older children, it is accidentally discovered when the better eye is closed, and if the child didn't have any eye checkup earlier. And poor performance or attention span can be another indication. Sometimes squint is the first indication that the child is having refractive error. Before we go through the detail of how to do refraction, we should know how to assess the vision of the child. So in very small infants by infants it is generally meant pre-verbal children. So pre-verbal children, either we do a menace reflex or a fixation pattern. When we are doing a fixation pattern, we put a torch light and try to see whether the child is following the torch light in all directions or not. Try to do it separately with both eyes and binocularly also. So these are some of the charts that are used. The optokinetic drum, and in preschool but verbal children. Second category is children who are verbal but cannot identify alphabets. So for that, what we have at our place is various charts are available, and this is the most commonly used, which is called Lee's symbol. So we give a sample to the parents and tell them to train the child, and next visit we check the vision, and if the child is cooperating in the first visit also it can be done. Then another important point is that we cannot be dependent on autoref. Yes, autoref can be used as a support to our manual retinoscopy, but that cannot be the only method. So in children, we have to have we have to develop the retinoscopy skill for refraction. Next would be, how do you dilate these children? Any questions till now?
Not yet.
Not yet. So next would be how to dilate these children. So dilatation, we use various agents, and depending on the age of the child. In an infant less than 1 year, we use plain tropicamide. If it is for ROP screening, we use tropicamide diluted, Tropicacil plus or tropicamide and 2.5% phenylephrine. Normal Tropicacil plus is 10% phenylephrine, so we dilute it into 1/4, and that we use for ROP screening. And children above 1 year of age, this is the normal dilating protocol that we use. We first give cyclopentolate, then tropicamide, and then again cyclopentolate, and 35 to 40 minutes after that we do refraction. Another way, if cyclopentolate is generally contraindicated in children who have neurological problems, so in that case we need to use homotropin with tropicamide. ROP drop already mentioned. Now we also need to know the side effects, because it is not that it doesn't happen. Sometimes with cyclopentolate they can have ataxia, incoherent speech, mainly neurological symptoms. So we have to be very careful while taking history, and every child history of any neurological problem has to be taken. And atropine are the more common side effects all of us know. Contraindications already discussed. Now in present, earlier our view, many of us thought that atropine has to be used in all patients, all children, but the major disadvantage of that is that you are paralyzing the near vision of the child for 3 weeks. And refraction needs to be done once in 3 months or 6 months, maximum 1 year. So every time you cannot afford to give 21 days of blurred vision to the child. So cyclopentolate works equally good, but in selected cases, when you have a suspicion of inadequate cycloplegia or ciliary spasm, atropine can be used. Now tips, again what I told earlier, let your staff give the eye drop, don't give it yourself, because then you will not be able to develop rapport with the child. And you have to grab attention. Near retinoscopy initially will give a rough idea of the refraction of the child. Now as you can see in this, the child is in the lap. You have to make the child comfortable, and many times you can do it over the spectacles. Like if this child underwent lensectomy, and this refraction is being done over the spectacles, so that also can be tried in children who are already using aphakic spectacles. Now coming to what we will prescribe. So before we know what to prescribe, we have to know how these children are born. And most of the newborn children will have hyperopia, and every hyperopia need not be given spectacles. So we need to know what is significant hyperopia. Again, astigmatism is common. Myopic shift occurs in older children, so that time we have to give. So before prescribing, we have to pose these questions to ourselves, whether the refractive error is significant for visual needs of that child for that age. For every age, visual requirement is different. So for that age, whether it is significant or not, whether that refractive error can cause amblyopia or not. That is the second question we need to answer. Third is whether that refractive error is causing any squint or not. That will help us in making our decision. So if it is a hyperopia and we are expecting a high hyperopia in a child about 3 years of age and having esotropia, there is a high chances that the child is having accommodative esotropia or a partially accommodative esotropia. Accommodative esotropia means that the squint will get corrected fully with the full correction, full hyperopic correction, and partially accommodative esotropia will mean that the child will have partial correction of the squint with the spectacles. Second is refractive amblyopia. With a +5 diopter or more, that may be amblyogenic for the child. So even in infants, we need to consider spectacles. Maximum what we can do, that first visit we tell the parents that the child may need spectacles, because again this advice is not taken very pleasantly by parents. So you have to keep that also in mind, because if they are not convinced, they will just disappear and come few years later. By that time the amblyopia will have come in, set in. So mentally prepare them first, tell them that there is a high refractive error, we will recheck again 2-3 months later, and then we may have to decide about the spectacles. So parents will do their own homework during this time, and they will definitely come again, and that time they are much more receptive for spectacles in the child. Small hyperopia, if it is causing headache or any asthenopic symptoms, even with normal vision, it should be prescribed. Now coming to myopia. Myopia up to 1 year of age, 5 diopter or more, yes, we should think of. 1 to 3 years of age, 3 diopters or more, and more than 3 years of age, this I would disagree, because again it is a school going age. So it's always better to give even 1 diopter of myopia if it is there. Astigmatism, 3 diopter or more and not decreasing, that can be done. But it has to be given up to 3 years of age. When we were taught around 1.5 diopter after around 2 to 3 years of age. So that is almost same, 2 diopters or 1.5 diopters in 2 to 3 years of age group, and more than 3 years 1 diopter or more if the vision is less. Many times this is a very borderline. It's borderline. Sometimes 1 diopter of astigmatism children will have normal vision and no asthenopic symptoms, no headache, nothing. In those cases we can wait, but if there is a drop in vision or headache, it has to be given. Now PMT, see, especially in larger cities, it is a problem, because many children and also older children, like it's PMT, only children who can respond, we can call them for PMT. And if they have come to us for the first time and they are having cylindrical or hyperopia, then it is always better to call them for PMT. In simple myopia, you can try cycloacceptance and give the spectacle in the same visit. Next would be special situations. Now, this is a 3-month-old child, aphakia, refraction after distance correction. All the actual refractive value is +21 and +22. What spectacles will you prescribe? Anyone wanting to attempt this answer? So
here, if anyone wants to answer, they can unmute and they can answer it.
So what you will do here is to give, because yeah. In a child, suppose a preschool verbal child or pre-verbal child, their world is their intermediate zone. They don't look at far off objects. So in aphakic children with this prescription, you cannot give distance correction. You have to give a correction for intermediate vision. So for whatever refractive value you get, you add around +1.5 or 2 diopters and give that, so that they are able to see in the intermediate zone. School going children, we can give bifocals, one for distance and one for near. or two separate spectacles in case of aphakic. Pseudophakic, again in children, option is between bifocals and progressive. One important thing what we have to understand that for progressive we need a vertical span for switching from distance to intermediate and near. So in children, if we have a very small frame, that span may not be available. So it is what we are doing is that we are advising bifocals, and as the child grows up and once the phase develops, then switch to progressive later on. Now here is a child with a squint, and once you give a hyperopic correction, the squint corrects. This is a typical case of accommodative esotropia, so we have to give full correction in that child. Now another situation is a child who has presented with squint, near value is 45, distance is 30, esotropia, and cycloplegic refraction is +5. So here if you give only distance, then the distance esotropia will get corrected, but for near, that 15 prism difference will always be there. So in these children, it is always advisable to give a bifocal and with the line, either an executive or a D bifocal, because nowadays executive bifocal is not that freely available with optometrists. So D bifocal with the bifocal line bisecting the pupil, that will take care of near squint as well. Some situations of in which there is double vision, or we may have to use Fresnel prisms and ground glasses if the child is not cooperating for amblyopia therapy. So sometimes one eye ground glasses are also used. Now many times you will have tinted spectacles, like if the child is having cone dystrophy, albinism, and iridescence, which will cause tinted spectacles is required. Now, this is a child in which one eye is bicycle, other eye is normal, but there is significant error. Plus 1.5 for the child. We need to prescribe glasses in these. Yes, we need to protect the only seeing eye. So a zero power plastic protective spectacles have to be prescribed in these children.
The audio is not clear for this slide. Can you go back again and tell for the last slide, the audio was not clear, please?
This one?
Yes.
This one? So this is a child. Suppose you get a one-eyed child with no significant refractive error. So in that case, it is always better to give a plastic protective spectacles, because we need to protect the only seeing eye. So don't leave these children unaided. Give them plastic protective spectacles. Follow up, how frequently should we do? When there is an amblyopic patient, definitely within maximum gap has to be 3 months, and especially if they have been operated for cataract. Myopia, we all know it progresses, so 6 monthly follow-up will be ideal. Astigmatism generally doesn't change, or a hyperopic patient doesn't change, so that can be annual if there is no amblyopia. Some tips for opticians: plastic lenses absolutely necessary. They cannot give glass lenses for children, or even for that matter for adults. For if it is a bifocal lens for high AC by A ratio, there should be a clear mention in the prescription that the bifocal line will bisect the pupil. Bifocals can be either executive or D bifocal, or a normal bifocal. And older pseudophakics can have progressive. For compliance, again, maintain records. What I do personally, any child who is using spectacles and is having amblyopia therapy, I have a automated system in my software that 1 month later, the parents get a reminder that hope the child is using spectacles and doing the patching. We have to reinforce, educate the parents regarding the importance of spectacles and patching both. Sometimes when they are not accepting the spectacles, a weak cycloplegia for a short duration may help. And popular colorful frames bands is another way to improve compliance. One controversy is there that whether we do LASIK in for anisometropic or ametropic amblyopia or not. So this is still under study, but people who are doing have found that children not responding to amblyopia therapy sometimes respond to LASIK. But again, it is too early to say. So that is how almost it's complete, and now we can take questions.
So thank you so much, Dr. Love, for the beautiful presentation. If anybody has a question, you can just unmute your mic and go ahead and ask the question, or you can write in the chat box, or without switching on your video, you can just go ahead and ask the question by unmuting. So one of the important things that as a postgraduate one should have is once you join post-graduation, one of the tools that you must have with you is a retinoscope. Whenever you are there in the OPD. Sorry?
It's must. See, I'll tell you my experience. During my PG, I would do at least 10-15 retinoscopy daily. Then once we became a consultant, then many times it's not required for us to do because optometrists are doing it. But even today, if I have to do a refraction, I can do it very easily. Many times I have to do it myself, and I don't find any difficulty. That confidence comes with practice during PG period, because once you become consultant and the load increases, it's not possible to practice it.
Till what age do you recommend that retinoscopy should be done? Because suppose you have a busy practice, like you said, and if you go ahead and put a cycloplegic, and if you use an autorefractometer for, say, a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old kid, and how would it be any different from a retinoscopy, this autorefractometer? Obviously, for very small kids, you cannot put them on the autoref, but for bigger kids, they will cooperate. So what would you still suggest?
This practice I started few years back, and what we have found that if there is proper cycloplegia, generally the figures match. So that has now become an absolute from absolute contraindication, it has become a relative contraindication. Can be done, but again, very small children, it's not possible. They will not cooperate with the autorefract.
Correct.
So that retinoscopy you cannot escape if you are dealing with child.
Correct. And while we are doing retinoscopy, there are a lot of other diseases also in the eye which we can recognize through the process of doing retinoscopy. Would you like to enlighten some of them, which is other than out of the purview of retinoscopy per se, but we can also find out some other diseases through while we are doing retinoscopy?
Many children subtle cataract we have diagnosed with retinoscopy only, because they don't cooperate with slit lamp, and indirect, if it is early small,
it's
maybe
5:30
subcapsular cataract, they will not respond to that. That will get missed in indirect ophthalmoscopy. So cataract is one important, or for that matter, any media opacity can be diagnosed with retinoscopy only. And sometimes keratoconus, the scissoring reflex, if you are getting, and if you are not getting a proper reflex, irregular astigmatism, all that comes with retinoscopy. Sometimes in autoref you will get variable readings in 2-3 times. that time retinoscopy is very important to pick up these points.
And if a child has had a history of trauma or something, a subluxated lens or something, also you
Yes.
could see during that time.
So there is a question from Anisha. Before that, from Arvind Kumar. In case of myopia in children up to 10 years, can we do full correction or full correction? Up to 6 diopters of myopia, definitely full correction. Beyond 6 diopters, depending on the comfort of the child, you can do under correction. But up to 6 diopters, always full correction. Second, with Anisha, that is there any difference in reliability of handheld autoref and normal autoref? Handheld I have not used. But again, that depends on stability with the eye. Special situation 3 months.
Handheld, I would say, is not so reliable as of now.
Acha, the one question is, can you explain the special situation 3-month aphakic with plus 21 and plus 22? See, if a child has undergone lensectomy for cataract, because before 1 year of age, IOL is not advisable. So in those children, generally they land up with around plus 20 diopters of refraction. Now these children in a especially preschool, maybe up to 2 years, their world and their visual requirement is for intermediate vision, only intermediate, not for distance. They are not bothered for objects beyond 2 to 3 meters. So if we give the distance correction, they will not be able to see the intermediate, because again there is no accommodation in these children. So we give spectacles for intermediate vision only, and for that what we do, we add around 1.5 diopter over distance refraction. So that will take care of the intermediate vision. Is that clear, Nisha? And all types of bifocal. See, bifocal mainly all three can be used for children, the executive or the normal bifocal or the D-bifocal. Anything is okay. Any other questions?
So, what has been the toughest situation for you in refraction with a child, from your experience? Has there been a time when you really couldn't do the refraction of the child, and then what did you do about it?
Then there have been occasions. Then we send the child that visit and call them again 2 weeks later and then do it. Most difficult, I would say, is unilateral aphakia. Unilateral aphakia, again, they will not use spectacles. Contact lenses very difficult to use. Parents have to be advised. Many times the contact lens gets stuck in the eye. So difficulty wise, that is a difficult situation.
Sir, what are reverse bifocals?
D-bifocal, you mean? What do you mean by reverse bifocal? How to check visual acuity? There is a question by Kapil. There is a question by Kapil. How to check visual acuity in a child having nystagmus and how to perform refraction? See, that's very good. I think this I missed in my slide. Next time I'll add. For nystagmus, what we have to do is first take binocular vision is must. Always take binocular vision for nystagmus. It has to be recorded because that is one of the most reliable way of checking. Now, when you are taking uniocular, then occlude other eye with a translucent, maybe Spillman occluder, so that the nystagmus doesn't increase too much. So separate readings of both eyes and binocular reading also has to be taken. Again, for nystagmus, refraction is same. Retinoscopy will be the same. You have to be more careful, keep focused on the central portion of the pupil. But for children with cataract, if the child is having cataract and nystagmus, our management of the cataract changes. We don't want to use IOL till 1.5 years of age, but if the child is having nystagmus, we tend to go towards IOL implantation, because with thick spectacles and nystagmus, vision will never be good. So those cases, any more questions?
तो मेरे पास से लेके जाओ तो नहीं तो सोए बोल रहा उसकी फाइल नाम
So in this congenital cataract,
Yeah.
in congenital cataract, what is the age you advise to get the surgery done? Immediately, after 2 months, 6 months? Because
If it's a unilateral cataract, it becomes emergency. It has to be operated as soon as possible, even if the child is 1 month, 1.5 months old. But if it is a bilateral cataract, we can wait for about 3 months and then do it, because chances of very dense amblyopia is more in unilateral cataract, not in bilateral cataract. Now, there is another question by Kapil, which says how to check visual acuity in a child with abnormal head posture. First, we have to understand what is the reason for abnormal head posture. One of the common reason is congenital motor nystagmus. So, congenital motor nystagmus, if you want to check visual acuity binocular, mainly binocular visual acuity, you have to check with head posture on. Like if the child is having a tilt or turn, check the vision in that position itself, because that will give an accurate idea of the actual vision of the child. And rest of the head posture causes any vision. If it is not an nystagmus, there is no difference between a normal child and other. Questions are good. Questions are actually good.
is there any other special situation in which we have to be a little extra cautious while we are doing refraction, especially in children?
I think more or less everything is covered. Sir, I have seen a child with this is from Kundan Kumar. I've seen a child spectacle looking exactly like a reverse bifocal. That would be the high AC by A ratio what I presented. See, when you are giving a bifocal in a child with high AC by A ratio, the lower segment is larger and upper segment is smaller, because you want the bifocal line to bisect the pupil. So in those children, that will look like a reverse bifocal. If retinoscopy reading is not getting Kapil, if retinoscopy reading is not getting like high emmetropia, then what to do for refraction? It's not clear. Can you unmute and explain, Kapil? What do you want to understand? Kapil, can you unmute and speak once?
I think the admin can unmute him.
We can mute, sir, but they have to unmute from their device. Dr. Kapil is there on the list. Is there. Dr. Kapil, can you hear? You can unmute your mic. As suggested, you can ask your question verbally.
Dr. J.G. Agarwal. Sir, what will be the procedure for prescribing prismatic lenses? See, prismatic lenses, mainly what we do is, the common conditions in which we do is superior oblique palsy or a small horizontal correction in the squint, which is called double vision. So that prism is
is again a primitive machine. But I think we should not forget about digital tonometry, which is again very easy to perform, does not need anything. So a little bit of experience is required, and whenever you are doing it, remember to tell the patient to look down and you don't measure it on the cornea directly. Now, one of the very
Dr. J.G. Agarwal is listening to another webinar.
So, when the procedure for prescribing prismatic lenses, the rule is that the apex of the prism will be towards the deviation. So suppose we have ended up with a small esotropia after surgery, overcorrection. So the prism will be base out. Apex has to be towards the deviation. Similarly, in superior oblique palsy, suppose if it is R over L, so right is up and L is down. So we want to bring the left eye up, then the apex will be up. So base down prism has to be given.
Sir, how to calculate the angle of the prism? How much?
For angle, we keep giving the prism and keep doing the cover test. And at one point, you will find that the eyes have become orthophoric. And same time, subjectively, also the patient has to tell us that the double vision is gone or it's overlapped, and then we prescribe the same. And if it and generally we should divide equally between both eyes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And last surgery, though I am listening to the other wave also, but that is unmuted. I am listening to you only.
Thank you. Thank you.
I will prefer Dr. Bala that he.
Any more questions? No more questions, Dr. Satyaji.
Yeah, so if there are no more questions, it may be a good idea to end the session at this point of time. We are very grateful to Dr. Love for speaking to us on refraction today. To all the postgraduates, I would like to request that tomorrow he will be talking on squint assessment. And it may be a good idea to read about the squint chapter today and then attend his class tomorrow. And then you will have more questions to ask from what you don't understand from what you read today, and from also from his presentation, what you don't understand, you can ask. I don't know whether the unmute system was working for or not for the participants, because everybody was typing only. But I would recommend and advise all of you to please ask more and more questions, because we want to make this a very interactive session. So all the question and the queries that you have, this is a good platform for you to feel absolutely free and ask without any hesitation. I would also like to thank our senior ophthalmologist, Dr. J.G. Agarwal, who is present over here, for attending this webinar. And tomorrow again at 5 o'clock, we will be sitting together for squint assessment. And a series of topics will be coming later after this week, after Dr. Love finishes. Then there are other consultants and teachers also who will be teaching on other topics, which is going to be very, very interesting. If there were some issues with the sound and technical logistic problems, we'll be sorting out them today in the evening, and so that you have a better reception, better audio, and better video tomorrow. Thank you so much, Dr. Love, for this today's evening program.
Thank
you
you,
so much.
Satyajit. Thank you, Satyajit. I will be present tomorrow also. But the problem is that some query from the Bangalore that they are not getting the sounds or visual quality very much good, very good. There is a problem in the sound quality.
We will sort that out just now in the evening, sir. We'll sort out that tomorrow. Everything is much better, sir.
Okay, okay. Very
Hello,
important.
Satyajit. This is Dr. Soni. Hello.
Hi.
Excellent presentation and very nice. If you can hear me, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello. Actually, the sound problem can be sorted if you use another external mic. Okay. So try to use that one so that it becomes a little louder, easier to hear. Otherwise, very nicely done. Good to hear.
Thank
Good
you so much.
initiative.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, all the attendees. And we would like to request all the postgraduates to tell more of their friends about this program so that everybody can benefit. Thank you so much. Goodbye and good night. Bye.
Bye.
Hello.
Hello.
Sanjeev Manish ji, can we close the session?
हाँ ক্লোজ করো। হ্যাঁ বলছি মেরিনা মন্ডল কে কল করে। স্কুইন্টার কালকে স্কুইন্টার উপর আছে। হুম হুম